I'm Bratton Riley. I'm the founder of Citibot. We've been building customer service chatbots for local governments for 10 years now. And I'm so privileged to be with Jeff, who many of you know. Jeff, you want to introduce yourself?
I'm Jeff Wilson, CIO, Town of Holly Springs. Been there about 15 years and was the technical lead on getting the Citibot implementation done, as well as 311 from the ground up.
Thank you, brother. I also I apologize in advance if any of y'all saw me sing karaoke last night. Something you can't unsee, but...
I would have loved the video. Send that to Randy.
Well, Tanner got some video cut.
Need to borrow that.
Yeah. I'll make y'all run out of here real quick. So what we're going to talk about is kind of our evolution from chat to data governance. We're in AI, and we use publicly available content that's generated by your government to put in our knowledge base for chat. And in that process, we've learned that help is needed as it relates to managing your knowledge base, and it's somewhat overlooked as a sense of urgency in local governments, and we're trying to solve for the pain for that. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So just brief background. This is December of 1975. This little 31-year-old Irish dude, his name is Joe Riley. He's my old man. It was the day he was inaugurated as mayor of Charleston, South Carolina. He integrated city government in the mid-'70s when that was very wildly unpopular with a lot of people. These amazing African-American city council people became members of my family. And they built love and trust amongst themselves and then emanated that love and trust to the population of Charleston. And that's why he went on to serve for 40 years. Because people knew that he was working as hard as he could for everybody. And they trusted him. And when you have trust in government, which is eroding, as we all know, then the government can expedite progress faster. And that's the Charleston story. So it started with, building trust with all residents, and then it enabled the projects that they were able to build. And I don't know, some of y'all probably been to Charleston, but a lot of what you see there has been built since about the mid-'80s, or refurbished since the mid-'80s. And now, as I was joking with some folks in the back, like half of New York has moved to Charleston since then, since COVID in particular. But but they built the trust. They built the fabric of government that could be trusted by everybody. And that's what I get to do every day. And Marie in the back and Tanner in the back, who are my workmates, we get to wake up every day to try to help you build more trust with your residents. And it's a labor of love that comes from the heart. And I can't help it. I grew up in City Hall, lived there for was in there for 40 some odd years. And I love local government. I can't help it. This is a little window into our footprint. So we're all over the country. We work with a lot of small and large communities. Large like Denver, Baltimore, Pittsburgh, and also CAL FIRE. We work with CAL FIRE, which is the state agency in California that puts out the fires that are over 10 acres. And it's pretty cool. I don't know if y'all know what an MCP is, but it's like a new age data warehouse that's built so that AI models can get access to real-time information. So like in CAL FIRE's example, like y'all can imagine the local fire departments are inputting information moment by moment on the status of fires. And so we get immediate access to that content so that we can answer the questions in real time about, someone can say, hey, I see smoke out my window, what do I do? Then we ask for the address. And then we tell them, this is the fire, this is the containment area, this is the way the wind's blowing, this is, you don't have to evacuate yet, but this is your evacuation route, and so on and so forth. We even know the GPS coordinates of the helicopters that are flying and carrying the water from the water source to where the fires are. But, you know, we've learned a great privilege of getting to work with so many incredible people around the country that sit in your chair. And it truly is an honor. And as we're honored by our North Carolina customers, cities and counties around the state, we just brought in Hickory a couple of weeks ago. We're so excited to work with them. But we love North Carolina. I have a lot of, being a South Carolinian, I have a lot of North Carolina FOMO. Because your government functions a lot better than one in my state. Y'all might want to beg to differ, but it's true. So here's an example of what our chatbot looks like on the web. Like I said, we work with the City and County of Denver. Tanner in the back is our marketing guru that designs the interfaces. We want you to name it. We want you to brand it. We want it to be a brand extension of who you are and how you're trying to extend your brand to all your residents. The design details are important. We want people to very willingly interact with you through chat. And so we built chat for multiple channels. And again, our mission is to serve all people. So when you think about serving everyone, you think about what are the channels that they want to use. And so we're on websites, of course, text message. We have our AI voice platform. We're in Facebook Messenger, kind of help your communications folks not necessarily have to answer all the Facebook communications, but we can do that on their behalf. And then we're in WhatsApp because 52% of the Latino population in the United States are regular users of WhatsApp. Not many local governments know what WhatsApp is, but if we're true to our mission, which is to serve all people, then we need to occupy the channels, make them available for you all in the event that you want to use them. And then let's talk a little bit about how do we build the knowledge base for chat. So what we do is we work with local governments. Y'all are the authorizers of what the content is that goes into our knowledge base. We'll never put any letter of a word that has not been authorized, pre-authorized by you all. So we kind of start with a premise, okay, let's use your website. How about your PDFs? God bless them. My goal is to try to get rid of every PDF on every website in local government. And I know that's a fool's errand, but it's still the goal. And then, you know, y'all have other tertiary systems that might house information, whether it's MuniCode, Laserfish, Esri. So if you want to make that content available for our knowledge base, then we can connect to these systems through API connection and our RSS feed. But again, y'all are the people that decide what goes in, and we will never put any non-publicly available content in our knowledge base, ever. And that's how we manage data, you know, security, and, you know, it's not like we're a banking software system where we've got like people's credit card numbers and stuff. We're trading in publicly available information. And then, like in the example of Holly Springs, we like to integrate into your service request management systems if you have one, whether it's CityWorks or whether it's, you know, any of these systems, Salesforce, you know, on down, GoGov, Catalyst, etc. In the case of Holly Springs, we started with an integration into Rock Solid back when it was Rock Solid before Granicus purchased it and subsequently stopped servicing it, unfortunately. So they're looking elsewhere now. But let's talk about Holly Springs. So, Jeff, I know a lot of people are familiar with your community. You want to talk just a little bit about your community?
So, actually, add on to that. So,
yes.
You talked about the PDFs off the website. It's one of our goals too as an organization because of the ADA compliance and having to change PDFs to ADA compliance. So that's a huge point of it. and born and raised in South Carolina, so visited Charleston. It's like an hour away, so visited Charleston all the time. And South Carolina is a real Carolina. I'm sorry, North Carolina people, even though I've lived here for 22 years. Apologize, right? He agrees.
Notice I'm just mum.
So Town of Holly Springs, we grew from, in the 90s, we're about 900 residents. Now we're approaching 60,000 residents pretty much. Growing very, very quick. We have a huge biopharma, few $1 billion worth of investment in biopharma over the last couple of years. And our population and residents are highly demanding 24-hour services. Highly demanding accurate information quickly as possible so they can move on with their day. Very technical people. So accuracy is important on that. Town is it's just very forward thinking. When I got hired in Holly Springs, the first thing I started thinking about was the previous town manager was talking about Holly Springs, and I was like, this is a real life Sim City. For anybody who used to play Sim City, it's like, this is really cool. So, and it's still that way after 15 and a half years there. So it's a great place to work, hugely supportive, innovative staff in the organization who work well together, and a town manager who was a CFO of a large municipality in North Carolina before he came as our town manager, and came with some of the best practices that he wanted to see change from what that municipality had operation-wise.
That's great. It always helps to have support from the top. So one of the great things that Jeff and the town of Holly Springs has done is they built a 311 from the ground up. And like you said, they're approaching 60,000 people, and they built a 311 from the ground up. It's an incredible story. It's an organic story. It's like what I tell these local governments when we're thinking about building a 311, the anticipation is that it's going to cost a lot. Getting the number, staffing, call center, et cetera. Mm-hmm. And it's just not the case. And they did it from a homegrown perspective. And Jeff, it's like a combination of people and technology. Mm-hmm. And it's like when people talk about building a 311, I always tell them, go digital first. And then you can build a sustainable customer service model for the future if you do that, because you can control the appreciation, increase of costs over time. So Jeff, tell us the story of how y'all built your 311, if you don't mind.
So when the town manager came in, I think he's 6, 7, 8 years now. Time flies. But one of his things is he really wanted to improve customer service. It was one of the initiatives of the council that they had as far as bringing in a strategic plan. And part of the complaints that community had is that you call one number, you get transferred to somebody else, cold, just a drop into somebody's voicemail, may not get a call, and they don't actually know where they end up in the organization. So what we decided to do is they built a team up of a couple of department heads who are customer service based. I was the technical lead on it, and our Parks and Rec director actually became one of the leads as well for just getting the coordination started and strategy. We all started working together, looked at what systems we had in house. CityWorks was a common denominator that we had at the moment for work orders to go into. Started the initiative of a conversation within the departments that we looked at who took customer service phone calls in each department and how many calls came in. We studied that based off the phone systems initiatives and what came in by email, what came in by form. So we took that and started saying, okay, are there staff that can be reused and brought into this organization? And that was kind of the initial goal. If the department had administrative staff who mostly answered the phones or answered emails and dealt with forms entering into the systems, they said, okay, the departments are going to end up donating a position to the 311 center. And we started with 4. We took a customer service person from finance, customer service person from public works, and I think there was a customer service person from Parks and Rec, correct? And I think did make one new position, which was the manager of the 311 center. So the people who moved in there already had skills. They had customer service levels. People knew them when they called them. They liked to talk to them. And then we started coming back with all the customer service issues people had of not wanting to be left in voicemails, not wanting to be cold dropped into somebody's voicemail box or passed around. So then we started the discussion of, okay, how do we make everybody go through one place? So we started mapping out. One of the hardest things that you guys may not even realize that you're going to do is mapping out all of your external phone numbers that people actually call for customer service. And so that's like looking at every form on the website, every page on the website, looking at how often, like if somebody you see all of a sudden has 50% of a department's calls in a day comes to like one person, and they're not normally even like the public number that's advertised. You start looking, it's like, okay, what kind of calls are you getting, and are these calls that go to that are actually 311 calls that you're forwarding to somebody else? So that is a lot harder than you think it is to find every single entry point phone number. Because a lot of things, like we have a bunch of stock DIDs in our phone system that we just have, and all of those were forwarded to a certain phone number, and we had to figure out how to get those redirected by default to another number. Came up with one number for the division, found a good phone number that we had, and then said, okay, we're going to now map which departments would go first. So we started a process of saying, okay, public works would be the first ones who get calls answered. Start migrating into further departments as they learn about what they need to do. So we start mapping out their processes, start mapping out how they go about everything. We did not go first at software. We're IT people, and the first thing we're thinking in our meetings is what software can meet the need. And that's, you can't do that on this instance, because you start looking at all these flashy things and they don't necessarily meet your need. Kind of like when we were going to new development software, everybody saw Intergov and was like, oh, flashy, fancy. And we're like, wait, hold on, we need to step back and actually look at it deeper. So we started going down that process. We actually did a RFP on the software that we wanted to use, kind of the format, how to go with it, web-based forms, what the integrations are, had to have a native application because our town manager's specifications were we're not going to have 5 different applications for different things. There's going to be one-stop shop, period, and that's it. And one of your other struggles is going to be making sure that this is a top-down initiative from the town manager or your county manager, whoever says, your departments are going to do this no matter what. And that was the thing we had to do. So that was, as you know, a lot of times some of the managers and organizations don't want to cause conflict, so they expect department heads to always just say, oh yeah, we're just going to happily get this together. And it doesn't work that way, because nobody wants to lose an employee from the department. Nobody wants to take on more work or less work. And so that was hard. So we did the RFP. We came back at the time, Rock Solid was probably the best in the environment. I would say right now, Rock Solid is probably the worst in the environment. Once they got by NCLGISA, it's like New World getting bought by Tyler, and it just went, so we are looking for a new system right now. But we had already been working with, we started working with Citibot actually before we even did some of the 311 stuff, because it would help our customer service. And we put a little pause on it until we went forward with the 311 solution. I'm trying to think of everything, because it's like, we literally built this from the ground up and went about a year and a half and went live with the first part of it. We got Rock Solid in place, integrated in with CityWorks. That was probably the hardest part, not because CityWorks is hard, but because some of these systems had the limitations like Rock Solid did on when you enter a work order, you have to have certain statuses that match a status going into CityWorks. And if it doesn't, it just dies. And the nice thing is with like like with Citibot is we also had the option of we could get something entered directly into CityWorks, or we could get something directly entered into Rock Solid if it was a matching, work order type. So we launched a big fanfare, big marketing campaign. I did work with all the 3 major cell phone providers and get the 311 phone number for our entire area because they can do it GPS based. We did look at other centers. We looked at Durham's. I think we're modeled probably the most after Winston-Salem's. That was one of the ones that we looked at. It's really, really complete. They kind of did if I recall, the same model of getting people from departments to kind of staff the center. The one thing that we did different than anybody else is we did not want to be metrics based. We are metrics based off of handling a call, but customer service is such a big thing for our community that there was not going to be, you need to get somebody off a call in 45 seconds or 60 seconds. If there's a lonely grandmother who needs her trash picked up because it was missed, and they really like talking to a 311 person, that's allowed because that helps the community. That makes somebody happy, makes them have better support. So that is not, so metrics wise, we're driven. Call volume, we'll look at how long a call is, but that's only to see if staff time is staff applied to it is appropriate. So, and we set the standards of we're not supposed to cold drop anybody into voicemails. We're supposed to try to handle an issue from start to finish. I'm sure people still get dropped into voicemail boxes, but they're supposed to like pass off somebody, like when you may get escalated with a tech support group when they hand you off. So that was a huge part of it. And once this started, they actually had a huge buy-in on it. They actually give awards every we have actually every year. I don't know if you even know this. There's any town employee who has submitted a 311 submission gets invited to a lunch, and then they even give you like an award for the craziest submission. They give you an award for the most submissions because they started running this off of town employees. See something, say something, it makes the community look prettier. It's not just for the community. We're part of our community. We're driving around. We see everything. I put in some complaints about Google Fiber leaving oil on every single one of our streets from their leaking compressors the other day, and environmental compliance dealt with them. So, I mean, I even did it. And so we use it as an internal service because we sometimes don't know who to call. You would think that me as an IT person knows to call this inspector for this or Public Works for this, and we don't. But in the system, it's built up with the rules and the background working with the departments to get something in there. And if it doesn't go to the right place, it gets transferred to who it needs to be on the back end, and everybody's working together. And they even took the 311 center and like, instead of just saying Duke Energy, oh, here's the link to do this light poles out, they actually will work with the person to enter in the light pole issue. They don't just send an email, send somebody to a website for DOT signal timing issue. They actually enter it in for them. They may offer us like, hey, if I send you the link for this, will you do it? So it's end to end. You get confirmation information during the process. And so it's been great. Started bringing other departments in. We even have our inspections department. When you have a permit, you want to get your inspection done, you call the 311 system and they deal with the scheduling for you. So, and one of the other big things was our town manager specifically said where he was before, he could not stand going into the 311 center and seeing like 15 tabs open on a browser. He said the goal is one stop for the 311. No going in the CityWorks looking at something, no going in the CityView looking at something. You would have maybe a SharePoint page where they get their common information. They can look stuff up. They use Citibot to look stuff up on the website to help people out. But it was consolidated. That was the requirement in RFP. Don't have 20 different systems for people to go into to find something, because that would be the part that wastes time in helping somebody. That's been a huge part of it. And then we waited a little bit to put Citibot on there. That's not because of our issues that we have as far as technical. We have a very, 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 very picky and conservative communications director. And I'll tell you, if Citibot's on our website right now, that means she likes Citibot. So, you know Cassie. Oh, you definitely know Cassie. She is very, very picky. Our town manager is very picky too, and you've known Randy for a good while. So, yeah, and then we got all the phone numbers. We forwarded all the phone numbers to one phone number in the town. And there's no call tree except after hours. It goes to somebody. Unless there's some kind of situation or something, we'll add an IVR at the beginning that may have some information about a water outage, and maybe you press 1 to get further information to go to the utilities department or something. But somebody answers, except if you're just in a call queue. That's the only time somebody doesn't answer, if you're sitting in a call queue and it says like you're number 1 in the queue or number 2 or something. So it's totally customer service driven, organic grown, from top down. It wasn't just rushed either. I mean, it was bought in. And it actually, sorry, I know I'm taking a lot of time, but it actually let us see some of our operational deficiencies in the organization, because there was commonalities across departments that two departments actually would have one request that they had to deal with. So that was an issue. So it's not the easiest thing to put in a 311 request and it goes into CityWorks and then try to split that out into like different pieces of it. It takes a little bit of manual work. But looking through that and looking at the processes of how the organization worked, we started down a process of re-implementing CityWorks from the ground up with a 4th domain instead of 3 separate domains. And every department is in one domain, so everything can pass back and forth. They share information, they can see everything, and there's no separation between any of it. And actually, I presented with Timmons Group at one of the conferences a couple of years ago on the fact that the decision to go with the 4th domain, because it was like, okay, did we do a reinstall? And that was like actually one of the best decisions we did, and one of the most complicated decisions we did. But it has night and day changed how one of these systems like Citibot, putting in a request, actually gets to the right place and transferred to the right place easier. Or if there's multi-steps that have to happen between one department fixing a pothole and the next one coming out and painting the line, it's just, if you do it right, it shows you where your deficiencies are, and it teaches you how to fix those issues, as long as that you have some top-down push. Culture is a big part of it. We all know organizational culture is one of the hardest things to battle, and I think that we've had a good side of it. So Citibot's live. George, our director of communications, was telling me today how great it is that it's 24-hour access. It can get it to the call center if they need it. Otherwise, people can walk through and put a request in there if they don't get an answer. And it's absolutely loved. We have some of the best community survey ratings of any of our municipalities around us when they do a community survey every couple of years. So, and 311 customer service is one of the biggest reasons that we have high customer service.
It's a great story, man. Yeah. Truly.
Long-winded. But.
All good. Just a couple of things he said. Remember we said how many new hires they had to make? 1. And then to his point, it's like if city staff doesn't even know, town staff doesn't even know what the departments fully do, then of course your residents don't, right? And so it's like, for so long, governments have been imputing the knowledge on their functions to the residents, thinking that the residents know what they do, and they have no clue. Some savvy people know what they do, but most people don't. So it's just like an example here. It's like, when is a spring yard waste sweep? Well, that's a mouthful.
I don't even know that. So, and I live in Holly Springs. So it's seriously.
And so you think about your resident, it's like, where do I go to try to figure this out? And the point is, you don't have to go anywhere. just chat and you'll get your answer, and then we source, all the information gets sourced back to where it came from. So let's say they're looking for a building permit or an HVAC permit, then, we want to answer the question and show you where the information's coming from. They don't need to know who does what. And that's the thing. And then we're in 75 languages too. I know pockets of North Carolina have, international communities. We want to serve them all. And then on the back end, we do AI-powered data analytics now, so we can actually show you what your residents are saying in a certain time increment, the volume of, topical engagement that they're having, and then we can tell you what their sentiment is about each topic. And then you can click on the topic itself. It's kind of hard to see, but that was interesting. There we go. So y'all probably can't see this, but these are like the hot topics, and we rank them in order of percentage. So number 1 is permits, go figure. And then you can like click on permits and then go see all the conversations around permits. So it's like it helps the content itself, and the data that we're able to now derive out of it is able to tell you what your residents are saying in a particular moment and how they feel about it. So you think about that. It's like I tell these local governments, you've been making anecdotal decisions up until now on how to prioritize your content. Well, you don't have to do that anymore. You can actually do it from resident-informed communications in a certain time period, so you don't have to guess anymore. And then prioritize your content according to what people are asking about. And maybe you need to boof and poof the content a little bit. This is a case study from Denver. So after 18 months of working with them, obviously it's a big city, 720,000 people, city, county combined. But what we've been able to do with them is, in a year and a half, we answered about 150,000 questions, engaged 111,000 people in 47 languages. So when we were implementing with Denver, they were like, okay, we know we need 5, Spanish, Chinese, and I can't remember the other ones. And they're just blown away. They had no other way to know the diversity of their own population before we started generating this data for them. And then they're a Salesforce city, so we, like Jeff was talking about, we routed 5,500 service requests into Salesforce. And then Denver is very unique in that they actually track their cost per call into 311. Very few 311s in our country actually do that. It's $4. People, technology, overhead, time of a call is about 3.5 minutes. So we're at 35 cents. And so we're able to generate real ROI for them. They're in the middle of a major budget crisis, like a lot of other places are, to the tunes of, I think it's well over 100 million. And so they had to cut their 311 hours, but they didn't cut us because they had the trust and confidence that our product would serve them, and they weren't taking a big risk of reducing their hours. We love them. They tell us we're the best vendor they've ever worked with, and that's their words. But so in the process of all of this, as I mentioned at the beginning, it's like we're using your website as a knowledge base. We going along the road, and we're very close to your communications professionals. Your website is a little bit more like a dumpster fire. No offense. And, it's a lot of governments have used the website as like a file cabinet. Well, let's just put it on there. PDF, yeah, let's put it up there. And then, if you're like most governments, the content editors are department based for most local governments that we work with. And it's like falls in that category of other duties as assigned. Some departments care a lot. Some don't. And like in the case of the communications professional, they don't always have the street creds in the organization to get these departments to do what they should be doing. So we got to help them. So last summer, I interviewed who I thought were the top 10 local government communications professionals in the U.S. Some are our customers, some are not. They're just friends. I was like, okay, refreshing a website takes a year and a half. It's a pain in the butt. No one wants to do it. I'll go to these communication conferences. I'm like, how many of you like to, as part of your job, refresh your website? No hands. It's like going to the dentist, So we interviewed them, and it was just like, look, we feel the pain. Help us build a product for you. And then about halfway into it, interviewing them, like, can you help with ADA too? And so, and I don't mean this to be a nerd or anything, but it's like there's such a sense of urgency of keeping everything secure, right? That's what is such a big part of your day-to-day. But there's no sense of urgency about making sure that your data, your information is accurate and up to date on your information source. There's not a sense of urgency. But it's like, people ask me all the time, it's like, do you hallucinate? Because we got to ask if the ADA product hallucinates. I'm like, yeah. If your data's wrong, we're only using your data. And so what we're trying to do is ease the pain. Got content-heavy websites. Y'all are short-staffed. Everyone is short-staffed. It's like people are like, well, is AI going to replace my job? It's like, no, y'all are so overworked. We're just trying to give you some of your time back so you can have a better work-life balance. And so, in our models too, it's like better content means better answers. Garbage in, garbage out into an AI model means deeper trust. And that's what we get to wake up and do every day. And then we talk about accessibility. It's like, there's a lot of anxiety, right, about becoming ADA compliant. And yeah, the dates have been moved and all that, but there's a lot of anxiety. And there's two different types of local governments. There are the local governments that look at ADA as a risk management only. I got to check the box. And then there are other governments like, well, wait, so these regulations are in place for a purpose. And the purpose of it is to serve disabled people. Why don't we build the content in such a way that it's accessible to every member in your community? We like those governments that truly, the keynote yesterday, I don't know if most of y'all are probably in there. She talked about a coworker that got in a car accident and was blind. And then she said, the blind person told her, if you truly care about me, please fix all these alt text issues. It's about caring. And we're not just talking about a few people. 1 in 4 people in the United States have a disability. It's not the onesies and twosies. There's different types of disabilities. As y'all can see here, I have ADHD, which doesn't surprise anyone that knows me. But so when we talk about ADA compliance, it's like, it's an unfunded mandate, right? It's thrown in your lap. It's got to deal with it. Your communications people. The rules are confusing. And then we just feel the anxiety. There's so much anxiety, to meet the deadlines. And honestly, there's a lack of tools. There are tools out there, but they're not helpful, as I'll show y'all in a little bit. And then, of course, there's the PDFs. So these are different types of tools: scanning tools, overlays, PDF remediation, and then you can hire a consultant to do it for you. So the survey was taken of the American Council of the Blind did a survey. It was actually in April, of blind people. So overlays are the products that that will sit on your site that disabled people can use, but they don't actually change the underlying content of your site. So if you buy an overlay and then you terminate the contract with the overlay company, your content's not changed at all. 2.4% of blind people find overlays very helpful. 43% find them very harmful. And then almost 30% find them moderately harmful. So again, if you care about these people, don't get an overlay. They don't want it. Okay, if you just risk management, check the box, okay, we're okay. Well, but that's not actually serving the people. Oh, and PDFs. I'm just going to skip over that. So we built Refresh, and so what we do is we scan your website and all your PDFs. And we start by looking for information that's inaccurate. We want to get rid of that. And we point you to the pages where the inaccurate information is so you can fix it. And then what we call freshness is a nice way of saying content that's old as dirt that's on your website. Let's get rid of it. Bye. Swimming pool hours from 2025? Bye. You know? 2019 deadline for public comment? Bye. Let's get rid of it. And then for voice, it's our way of saying if your content's not in 7th grade reading level plain English, we're going to rewrite it for you. So you can copy and paste it and put it on your website. That's a part of accessibility. It's not just for disabled people, but it's for people that are at that level of reading level. It's important. And so we walk you through, we'll hold your hand. So like, we want to get rid of acronyms. No one knows what your acronyms stand for. Well, y'all do, but no one else does. Get rid of them. Bye. And so we'll show you where the acronym is. And then we'll make a recommended change to actually, in this case, it's PACE, Property Assessed Clean Energy. Write it out. And then we give you our why out of professional courtesy to you all. This is why we're making this suggestion. You might disagree with us. We want to honor that. We don't just want to tell you what to do, because y'all are the experts of your own community. This is an alt text issue in Bedford, Texas. And so we educate you. It's not just about fixing the ADA issue, but it's educating your people as to why this is an issue so that the next time that they create content, they don't do it again. Let's educate them. The rules are complicated. Let's educate your people. And so what we'll do is we'll list we'll tell you all the ADA issues and we'll rank them in terms of how many pages is this impacting. So it's like, how can we help you build momentum to show the progress, which is what the DOJ is asking you to do. So let's handle the biggies first before we go into the onesies and twosies and build that momentum. So it's not just like this brick wall that's intimidating. Tanner, how do I switch over to the 3 fingers? Y'all, I run a software company, but I can't. You mind coming up here? I did it. Wow. Yay! Isn't that great? My teammates find this funny because they know how limited I am. So let's talk about PDFs. As I like to ask the local governments, like, how many PDFs do you have on your website or are they inventoried? Right? Well, let's start with that. Okay? And then what we're about to do, let's organize your PDFs by how often people access them. About 90% of your PDFs need to be archived yesterday. So before you even think about making all these documents accessible, well, let's get rid of 90% of them. Archive them. They're a matter of public record. But archive them. Say bye. And then there's like the 10%. It's like, oh, we got to hold on to these, right? And there's some important documents that are PDFs. So what we enable you to do is you can take these PDFs, you can either convert them to HTML content, best practice, convert your PDFs to HTML content, or we can convert them to what we call a tagged PDF, which I'll show you one. So this is Arlington, Texas, and this is their ADA grievance form. Guess what? It's not compliant. And so we'll show you the document, and then you can convert it to a tagged PDF. So basically what we do is we go into your document and we tell you what to fix. Make it easy. Our next step is to do this automatically once we can start integrating into your CMS systems. But right now we do everything, and it's, it's like this whole process, not having something like this, is going and finding the needles in the haystack. Well, let's take a magnet over the haystack and pull all the needles up and save you so much time. And then, it's arduous to fix this, to get it done. But then you can just run a scan once a month from here forward, whether it's refreshing your website with content or refreshing it to make sure that new content is accessible. And then it's just handling the onesies and twosies. It never becomes this thing, this blanket that's making you feel claustrophobic, right? And then you can run a report. So like progress report. So at any point in time, you can, again, the DOT says you've got to show you're making meaningful progress. So at any point in time, you can just run a progress report. This is what we've done. You can't say that we haven't done anything. So that's how the product works. We actually can show you, like, from a screen reader perspective too, like rank your content on how, screen readers can consume it, and then WCAG 2.2 is going to come eventually, and so we've already configured it to handle the next round of regulations. All right, Tanner. I always go the wrong way. Sit down here.
Yeah, no.
What would I do without you? So that's what we do. And one last note, and I'd love to take questions. Jeff, would love to hear your questions. It's like, so you use refresh, you fix your content. You fix your data once and for all. And then products like ours will work really well when your data's cleaned up. And so, as I mentioned before, we launched with our voice product. And what is the worst nightmare when you launch a new product or new initiative? Well, the worst nightmare is when the media gets a hold of it and starts telling you how awful it is, right? It's not fun. So we have numerous voice customers around the country. One is Mount Pleasant, South Carolina, which y'all might know is right next door to Charleston. And the product's called Sawyer. And there's a local radio station, Kickin' Country 92.5. They have a morning show, and guess what they do? They call up Sawyer to try to mess with it. And so, I want to share this recording to show you how we handle that. And so, here goes. Here goes. Come on.
Thank you for calling the town of Mount Pleasant. I'm your digital agent, Sawyer. Calls may be recorded for quality assurance and training purposes. How can I help you today?
Hi, Sawyer. This is Cush from 92.5 Chicken Country. How do I get to Shem Creek?
Let me pull up the directions to
Hello?
Shem Creek for you.
Ooh,
Cush, welcome to Mount Pleasant. Shem Creek Park is on Shrimp Boat Lane here in town, right along the Shem Creek waterfront. Since I cannot see where you are starting from, the easiest way is to plug in Shem Creek Park, Shrimp Boat Lane, Mount Pleasant, South Carolina into your Maps app and follow turn by turn from your current location. Are you coming from downtown Charleston, the interstate, or somewhere else, so I can give you a simple landmark route?
that's none of your business, Sawyer. But my friend Jessica would like to ask you a question.
No problem at all. I will not ask again about where you are coming from. I'm glad you made it to me safely on the phone, at least. Tell Jessica I am ready whenever she is. What would she like to ask?
Hey, Sawyer the Shrimp. How
I
many
do-
Chick-fil-A do you have in Mount Pleasant?
Let me check what we have here in Mount Pleasant for you. Jessica, that is a fun question, but my town information system does not list private restaurant chains like Chick-fil-A by count, so I cannot give you an exact number. Your best bet is to open your Maps app, search Chick-fil-A, and filter to Mount Pleasant to see every location nearby. While you are out and about, Shem Creek, Memorial Waterfront Park, and the Old Village are all great Mount Pleasant stops between meals. Is there anything about the town itself that you two would like to know while you were on the air?
Well, my other friend, Hunter, would like to ask you a question.
Got it. Happy to hear from Hunter, too. Go ahead and put him on. What is his question for me?
I'm happy to hear from you too, Sawyer. How you doing today?
Hunter, I am doing just fine.
I'm not recording us. I forgot to.
You forgot to turn our mics on? How?
I didn't turn them up. I'm used
Oh,
to.
and that means we have to wear a headphone.
Yes.
Hang up because he's listening. Bye, Sawyer.
Or you can ask the question. We can put it in. You want me to? Yeah, just ask the question. We can put our questions in. Huh? We can always put our questions in and record them and then edit
No,
them.
but he's still listening.
That's okay. Good, Hunter. Ask. Hey, Sawyer, what's going on?
Sounds like y'all are having quite a morning in the studio. I am here and listening whenever you are actually ready with a question. What can I help you with for the town of Mount Pleasant?
You have to turn the radio off.
Right, turning the radio or speaker down is important so we do not get that echo and feedback on the call. Once you have that turned off
There
from
we
the
go.
studio, I'm all...
Sorry, Sawyer. I was rocking out to the brand new stuff from Steve from Stranger Things. He beat out Taylor Swift and knocked her out of the #1 spot of Spotify. I still don't think he can sing. What are your thoughts?
I appreciate you bringing me into the music talk, but I have to stay in my lane on this one. I do not have opinions on artists or access to current Spotify charts, so I cannot really weigh in on Steve versus Taylor.
Well, let me ask you something.
And so on and so forth. But y'all see how it, we're only putting publicly available content in the knowledge base, so it's going to stay in its lane. And then we can record a voice, a local voice to make it sound like someone in your community. We're numerous languages, phonetically appropriate, and it's got a sense of humor. And we can adjust the personality style, according to what reflects the culture of your community. But it's like the point is, and Jeff mentioned, after hours, there's a phone tree. Most of you probably have an IVR system when people call the main line. Who likes an IVR? Option 1, option 9. Well, what was option 1? And it's not always got the option that you're looking for. And then it takes time, right? You got to listen to it all. And so we just want to say bye. Just transfer the calls into our system. And then we can route calls based on the topic. If someone wants to talk to somebody, we can route calls based on the topic or route it back into the call center in the case of Jeff's, because they're all trained to answer all the questions for the town.
Citibot is.
So it's our way of, it's not just about delivering the AI platform. It's about delivering a high quality system that is trading in up-to-date, accurate, and accessible information, so that we can help you with all those things. So that's what we get to do.